Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be sharing with you how to cut a stylish conical Victorian corset. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern paper, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and I marked 7 inches from my waistline to get my top length. After that, I marked my shoulder divided by 2 and I came down by 1 inch. I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder slope. So after that point, I'll be getting my chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I'll measure what I have at the shoulder, and I'm going to draw a straight line at this point connecting it. So after that, at that line, I'll place my ruler and I'm going to draw out a straight line, and this line will be serving as my chest line. What I'll do next is to divide this into 2 by folding my tape, and I'm going to come in by half. At the chest line, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll extend my chest line again. Now I'll place my curved rule connecting from that point from my bust circumference divided by 4 to the ½ inch at the armhole and at the upper part. So for this pattern also, I'm making use of a bust dart. That means the front length will be longer than the back length because there's no bust at the back pattern. So to mark my dart, I'm going to come down at the lower part and I'll mark 2 inches. This is to create the style line we have at this point. So after I'm done marking that, at the under bust, I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Now I'll place my ruler and I'm going to connect from my under bust down to that 2 inches we have at the lower part of my pattern this way, and I'll go ahead to connect, creating a slanted line. Now I'll be marking my dart intake of 1 inch at both sides of my waistline, and I'll also go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 at my bust line also, because and also at my chest line, because I forgot to actually mark that. So I'll just go ahead and mark back my normal dart intake of 1 inch at both sides. So if you're a plus size or you're a bit busty, you're going to be using 1.5 inches on this part. Now I'll go ahead and I will connect my pattern. After I'm done connecting, I'm just going to extend my dart. But before I extend my dart, I'm going to come down by 4 inches and I'm going to go ahead to connect this all the way up. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to connect this all the way down, and I will repeat this at the other side of my pattern also. I will connect from my bust down to my under bust, and at the other side I'll also do the same, connect from my bust to my under bust this way. So after I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to mark this out. So the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark my basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches, which will be serving as a guide for this pattern. So I'll just go ahead to mark this out. So for the remaining part of my shoulder, I'm going to be dividing it into 2 this way by folding my tape, and I'm going to go ahead to connect from my bust down to the shoulder point. So after I'm done connecting, I'll be coming up by 1.5 inches. This totally depends on where you want your cup or your dress to start, and I'll go ahead to just mark ½ inch on both sides because I don't want to have too much curve on my pattern, but you can go ahead to use your 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead to insert my body measurement, mark my bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add ½ inch for the sewing allowance. At the under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the 2 inches dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. So for this pattern, you do not need too much sewing allowance. So I'll go ahead and mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure these 2 inches dart intake, and I will replace and add my sewing allowance. So I'll be snatching out this waistline, but we are going to be doing it much later. So at the lower part, I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure about 3 inches for the conical hip effect, and I will add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. So after I'm done doing that, I'll go ahead and connect my pattern from the bust down to the under bust to the waistline, and I will be taking this down to the hip point of my pattern. So after I'm done connecting this way, we are going to go ahead to alter our pattern to get the design that we want on the dress. So I'll just go ahead to use my marker and outline my pattern. So for the sweetheart neckline for this pattern, I'm going to start from the chest line because it's not so deep, and connect it to that 1.5 inches. So from that 1.5 inches, I'm going to connect it all the way to the chest line this way. And I'll use my marker to mark this out to make it more visible for you to see. After I'm done marking this, now we're going to measure about 1.5 inches from the already existing dart line that I have, or 1 inch, and I'm just going to go ahead to connect this all the way down. So here I'm just going to be marking 1/2 inch on both sides, that is to snatch my waistline. So I want to take out 4 inches for my waistline, so I'll be doing 4 inches divided by 4. By the time you divide it, you have 1 inch, so you're going to be marking 1/2 inch on both sides of the dart, giving you 1 inch. So you'll be doing this on the right side of the front pattern. On the left side of the front pattern, you'll be able to take out 2 inches. Now you're also going to repeat the same process at the back, taking out 1 inch, 1 inch on both sides of your pattern. You also have 2 inches, so 2 inches plus 2 inches, you're going to be having 4 inches taken out of your waistline. So after I'm done doing that, I'll be marking 0.25 inches on this part. I'll extend it up and also extend it to the lower part. This is to make sure that the front pattern lays very well, or lays flat on your stomach, just like you're taking out the bulginess at the back of the dress. So I measured about 3 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to connect it all the way this way, and from this point I'm just going to take it all the way down. So this is what I have at this point, and I'll be extending my pattern with 1/2 inch. So you notice I have 1/2 inch at the lower part. I'll just add it to the pattern this way. So this is what I have after I'm done cutting this out. So I'll be marking my bust start of 1.5 inches. So the difference from my front and back measurement is 1.5 inches. So the back does not have a bust. So if you place your tape and measure from your shoulder to the waistline of the front and the shoulder to waistline of the back, you notice that there is a slight difference. So mine is 1.5 inches, and I'll be marking it. So if you mark this out and cut it out, you notice that your pattern at the front and at the back will be meeting. So yours might be 1.5 or yours might be 2 inches. It totally depends on your body measurement. So I'll just go ahead and create this style effect. So if you notice on the dress, you have this bead pattern on it. So it's actually a bead pattern. After you're done sewing, you can just use this to create the bead pattern or effect. So I'll just go ahead and blend in my dart lines this way, and I'm just going to go ahead to cut the rest of my pattern. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and if you also have any question, please don't forget to also leave it at the comment section. So after cutting this out, we'll be moving over to the back pattern. So for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements, and if you notice, my back pattern is a bit shorter than the front. So remember that the back does not have a bust. I took out 1.5 inches from the bust part of the front. So my shoulder to waistline for the front is 17. Because of that 1.5 inches, I took out the shoulder to waistline of the back will now be 15.5. That is 17 minus 1.5. I have 15.5, and the front pattern will also be shorter by 1.5 inches. So after that, I went ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 7 inches divided by 2. After I was done marking, I went ahead to draw a straight line. So now I'll be marking a dart intake of 1/2 inch on both sides. And after that, I'll just go ahead to extend this all the way up, and I will be extending the dart to the lower part also this way. So after I'm done doing this, I'll go ahead to insert my body measurement. Just to show you that the front pattern is shorter, from the waistline of the front we have 7 inches. So from the waistline of the back, what we have is 5.5. That is minus 1.5 inches. So that half inch we added at the lower part of the front, I'll be adding it back to the back length also. Now I'll just go ahead to insert my body measurements after now. I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 8.3, and I'll add half inch because there's no dart at this point. At the waistline, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, which is 28 divided by 4. You have 7, mark it, measure the dart intake and add your sewing allowance. At the top length, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and after that I'll be adding extra 3 inches plus the half. So after that, I'll just go ahead to connect my pattern from the chest line to the bust, to the under bust, and down to the top length. So I'll go ahead and add a style line to this. This is where I'll be inserting my dart to snatch up my waistline, just like we did for the front. Now I'll be marking the same half inch on both sides of this pattern, and after that I'll extend it all the way up and extend it to the lower part of this pattern, and I'll be marking 1.5 inches for the lacing bar area, and I'll go ahead to draw a straight line. So I'll come down by that same 3 inches and I'll go ahead to connect it this way for the back pattern, and use my marker to mark it out, indicate that I have a lacing bar at that point. At the upper part, I'll come down by half inch and I'll take it all the way up. After that, I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also leave your comments at the comment section, or any question if you have at all. I'll go ahead and label my pattern and I will cut the rest out. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Join us in our next pattern illustration. Thanks.